think that's a good idea.
Yeah. All right, well, is it recording now?
It's recording now.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. This is, we're going to do an interview with Craig and Iris Davidson. We've got here Rich Davidson, Christy Davidson, Ben Davidson, Scott Davidson, and Ann Davidson. We've got some different questions to ask. Feel free to be as elaborate, you know, if we spend the whole time on one question, that's fine. It's not like we have to get through them all. So take as much or as little time as you want on any particular question. The more details, the more interesting it'll be. Think about it, this is the point of it is your grandchildren who won't get to know you as well, or your great-grandchildren who may not get to know you, who will want to do this, and even us with our poor memories will be able to look back at this and remember you when we were old and forgot you.
Should we make up some interesting stuff?
If you make it up, we won't know the difference, and so whatever you want recorded, now's the time.
Just checking.
Okay, so I've got a couple questions that I wrote down first. We'll start with those. So tell us about some of your childhood friends.
So I'll go first since I already heard that
Well,
question.
this is mostly for you, so.
Yeah, you probably had more friends. Growing up, our neighborhood had the same, it was like when you guys were growing up, same ages of kids, and so there would be, we didn't call it night games, but there would be that, and Delary was pretty much always in charge of everything.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Because she could do that, and so we had fun playing. Although sometimes she would tell everybody to gang up on me and, you know, make me be the loser or whatever. But I still love her.
Now, Iris,
So-
where did you grow up?
I grew up in Houston. It was actually a suburb or something. It was called Sharpstown, and it was on a street called Hendon. I looked it up on whatever. Doesn't look at all the same now. My mother loved turquoise and yellow. I think the outside of the house might have had some of that going on. And so it wasn't a huge house, but it was sufficient.
Did you live in that house until you moved to California?
Yes, till I moved to California. And my dad had built took old tires and cut them and painted them like a snake going up something, and we would climb on that and jump off of it. We'd swing sets and stuff. But probably my best friend when I was little growing up was the next door neighbor, and her name was Florence, but I think one of her siblings couldn't say it, and so she was called Flo Flo. So, and she was a little bit younger than me, but really nice. But they got richer and moved away to a nice place. So anyway, but I had siblings to play with, so did a lot of that. We liked to play. We did the same things you guys did, board games and puzzles. TV was not nearly as exciting as it was for you. So anyway,
What sibling do you remember spending the most time with?
Delary.
Yeah.
Delary. Oh,
How many
very much
bedrooms
so.
were in your house?
I think 3, and then they took the garage and turned it into a bedroom.
Did you share a room with Delary most of
Yes, I did. Pretty much all my life, you know, I mean, until she got married.
the time? How much older is she?
2 years, exactly.
To the day.
Yeah,
Same birthday.
same birthday. Yeah, twins born 2 years apart. She's the smart one.
Who are your other brothers and sisters?
Marcia's the oldest. She was about 3 years older than Delary. And then Delary, then me, and then Emery. He's 3 years younger than I am, and Danella, 2 years younger than Emery. And then Charles came along a lot later, and I think I was about 13 or 14 when he was born. And then when Mom married Jim, they adopted Timmy, now known as Tim.
You called him Timmy when he was little?
He was Timmy,
That's funny.
yeah.
Tell us how you joined the church.
Well, as I remember it, Marcia answered the door, and so if I was 11, she was, like 16 or something. She's very beautiful, Marcia. And the missionaries were at the door, and she invited them in. And they said, "Is your mother home?" So So they came in, and my mom had a baby in between Marcia and Delary that died. She did, she breathed. She was alive, but she did not live. And that was so heartbreaking for my mother. And anytime she would talk to a minister or preacher or whatever to say what happened to my baby, sorry, I'm old and emotional now, they would say, she just goes to whatever, she's not going to go to heaven because she wasn't baptized. And so when my mom asked the missionaries what happened to her daughter, she knew it was true. So.
What about for you when you first heard the missionary discussions, or what were your first thoughts about that?
Oh, I think I just felt good, You learn how to feel the Spirit as you're growing older. You learn how to feel it. But I think it just made sense. Like, okay, first of all, when people would be like, this missionary said, well, Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost are all separate. And I'm like, well, yeah. And they said, that's not what your church believes. And I'm like, really?
Did you go to church like weekly?
Oh, yes, we were Methodist.
Church.
Yeah. I didn't know that. So to me, it was like, well, that doesn't even make sense. So it made sense to me.
Did you know anything about the LDS church
No,
before the
I'd never
missionaries
heard
came?
of it.
You
No.
had never even heard of
No,
the Mormon church?
no, not at all.
Wow.
Didn't you say you went to Bible camp some years?
We
ago?
had Bible school in the summer, but it would be like, when you have a primary activity day or something, that would be kind of like that, and we would have Bible school.
And how
For like
old
a
were
week.
you when the missionaries first came?
11.
Oh, 11, okay.
That's same age as Ashley. Yeah. You want to tell about your childhood friends?
well, I was the oldest, and then I had 4 sisters. Let's see, then Brent, and then the 5th sister. So I didn't play with my sisters. I was just so I played with the friends. We lived in a house, our first house, till I was about 4 or 5, down in Knoll Circle, about just off of State Street and 2100 South. And then we moved up to the house that all you guys know of. And so I had friends up there. I had a friend across the street named Paul McGill. And he was the first friend that I would really, hang out. And we did that for quite a while till I turned probably 10 or 11, or, started going to scouts. And then I got to know people in the ward better. But
What did you and Paul do when you hung out?
there was what we called the gully, and Rich knows what that is, where I-80 drives up through there. This was before the freeway had been built.
Well,
And-
the stream comes down in Tanner Park.
Tanner, I was gonna say.
Yeah, Tanner Park, yeah. And we would just, could go out the gate in McGill's backyard. They lived across the street from us. Go out through their gate, and there was just a field there. There's houses there, the field, and then you'd walk a little ways, and you were on the edge of the gully. And that's what was our playground, was playing down and doing this, exploring in the gully, playing down
So
there.
it sounds like when you were about 8 years old, your parents just sent you outside into the woods to go.
Well, it was more
explore on your
like
own.
6 or 7 years old. And
You could
yeah.
do that back then.
Yeah, well, I mean, my mom was watching all the other, my other sisters, and
Yeah.
Brent, and so we would just live. We had a lot of fun back there. I remember
Sure
we
you did, yeah.
we would always have some matches and play with matches. Started a fire in the field one time and couldn't get it out, and someone came over and helped us stamp it out.
Oh, wow.
Were there animals in there?
In the field?
Yeah, snakes or.
Rabbits or something.
I don't remember seeing any at all. It was just mostly sagebrush, and so we never saw rabbits or stuff like that. But, yeah, that's where we lived, and then we played Little League Baseball when I turned 8. We played Little League Baseball till I was 11 or 12.
What city did you grow up in again? Salt Lake, right? Or was it Mill Creek?
So what?
What
city
city was
did you
it?
grow up in?
Oh, well, the area is called Canyon Rim area. It's about 28th east and 28th south.
I think it's part of Salt Lake.
Salt Lake?
So, but we consider ourselves Salt Lake, yeah.
Which sibling do you remember spending the most time with?
Well, my twin sister, Chris, you know, when I was real little, we would do things together, I imagine. I don't remember anything specific, you know. We didn't, well, I think we walked down to the store one time. We talked to my mom and let us walk down to the little corner store that was on like 20th. We lived on 28th East. It was below 27th, so it might have been about 20th East. Right when you'd get off the freeway there and then you'd make a left up. And that seemed like quite a ways to us.
Was the freeway there?
No, no, I remember when and no one will believe this, but my mom and I were the first on I-80, you know, when you get up on 23rd, 300 South. I think we were on the freeway the day it opened. We drove down to Sugar House for some reason. I was astounded at how fast you could get from Sugar House back to our house on the freeway there.
How old were you then?
You know, anywhere between 5 and 12 just blurs together, you know.
What did your parents do for work? Or I guess it would mostly be your dad.
My dad was a civil engineer and he worked for the highway department, the Texas Highway Department. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom until they divorced. And right before they divorced, I think she knew that's what she was going to do. And she got she went to school to become a nurse's aide. She loved that. She would have been a great nurse, but
How old were you when they divorced?
I think I was about 14.
How was that for you? Like, how did you feel going through that divorce?
So, my dad had anger problems, you know, and he lived in a time when mental health care wasn't as good as it is now. And he was scary. So I was glad that they divorced, but it changed our lives because our mom had to work and she worked nights because she got extra pay for that. And so she'd sleep in the day and
She worked in a hospital?
she did. I don't remember which one. And Charles was little, and Delary had to take a lot on her.
Was Marcia gone?
She was gone by then, yeah. So that's the biggest impact. But, you know I talk about my sister Delary because she's bossy, but she's been a good sister to me. And I don't know what we would have done without her, but she had to take on a lot. I think she was the one cooking us dinner. So,
She would have been 16, I guess.
yeah. So,
Then how long between that and when your mom married Jim?
so they got married. Oh, I wish I could remember. Well, it was, I think I was a junior in high school because we ended up moving when I was
Was it in
junior.
Texas? that
Yeah,
they got
in
married?
Texas. They got married in Texas.
And then did you is that when you moved to California when they got married?
Yeah, I think I might have stayed behind to finish the semester, like with Marcia or something. I don't remember exactly. I think they let me finish the semester, but then I had to do my other semester in California. And that was hard, you know, because you'd gone to elementary school with some of these people, and then you'd gone to junior high with some of these people, and now you're in high school with them. And I went to the high school that most of my friends went to, and then they changed. Instead, I had to go to this other one, so I went to that one first. So that was my third high school when we moved to California.
Was that related to desegregation that you had to move schools?
I don't think so, but I don't know. Maybe it was. I think it was just the area, you know. I was going to Bel Air High School, but I lived in Sharpstown, and Sharpstown had a high school. So I think they just,
So were there black kids at your schools?
maybe more in California by then, but yeah. Yeah, there were.
What kind of stuff did you do for fun when you were a teenager?
Hang with my friends, talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, same
Did you
thing.
have a best friend that you had to leave behind when you moved?
Probably my church friends, you know, which was different than it is here because they didn't live close to me.
Yeah,
But
they were your closest friends.
probably,
They probably didn't even go to your school, did they?
no, they didn't. So, yeah, it was hard.
How
Yeah.
far did you have to drive to go to church?
Oh, probably 4 miles, something like that. Yeah. But when we moved to California, there was this family in our ward who had the most annoying 12-year-old, I'm guessing. And if she was ever around when I was talking, she would start laughing and making fun of my accent. I just wanted to punch her. She was so rude.
Was there a culture shock moving to California from Texas? Not really.
No, not really. I mean, it was nice the church was closer and there were people at school, you know, that went. So there were more people in California.
Why did you move to California?
Jim got a job there. He had gone back to school for whatever cancer stuff, you know, to treat something like. And he had done that, and then he got a job in California. So, but his kids all lived in Texas, you know, with their mom, and so that was. But he had to go where there was some work.
And you had extended family that lived in Texas?
My grandparents, my cousins, yeah, my uncles and aunts.
Your grandparents on your mom's side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did your home life feel more stable with Jim than it did with your dad?
Oh,
or-
definitely.
Really?
Definitely. Jim was good to me.
Yeah.
Danella and Jim had issues. But she was probably what, like, you know, 10 or 11, and that can be a hard age as you're entering teenage years. So, yeah, but Jim was always really good to me.
Is he the one, was his last name Moore?
Yeah.
So you took
So
his
he
name?
adopted you?
He adopted us, and then we were sealed to him
Yeah.
and my mom. But my brother Emery went back to his name, Martin, and
And did Tim take O'Grady as his
No.
last name?
No, Tim's
Charles
the-
did.
Charles did.
Charles took O'Grady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim kept Moore.
Because Jim is his adopted dad.
Yeah, that was the only dad he'd known.
Yeah,
So
well, so,
until O'Grady.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know. But I got by. Graduated.
What was one of your favorite Christmases when you were little?
I think though I can't remember. You know, I have trouble with memory, but I've always had that. So I was thinking about one year I got this doll that, you know, sometimes, I wanted two stories. One, I wanted a bride doll, and I got a doll, and she was dressed in this beautiful white dress. And then Delary said to me, "That's not a bride doll. It was a cowgirl doll, and Mom made the dress for it to be a bride doll," which was true. I was so mad. Why'd you have to spoil that?
Yeah.
But I remember one year I got this doll, and I hadn't asked for it, but I loved dolls. I loved having dolls. I always wanted to be a mom. That's my whole life. I just wanted to be a mom. And so I got this doll, and she had a hat on her head, and she had a thing on the top, and her head had 3 faces, and you turned it. And one of them she was sick, and one of them she was happy. I can't remember what the last one was, but she was called Hedda Get Better. I loved that doll.
So when you were playing with toys as a kid, it was usually you being a mom to your dolls?
Oh yes, yeah. You know, you take them places and wrap them up, and yeah. And thanks to all of you, I got to be a mom.
So should we talk about Dad's?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your dad.
Should we
Yeah.
talk about your teenage years a little bit?
Well, I'm,
Baseball.
I'm trying to think. Well, I guess when I turned like 12, we would play basketball a lot. And we'd go to the church. I mean, remember this, we'd play basketball with scouts. Or we'd play another night with a deacon's quorum and a,
Just
I mean,
like
we played
us.
about three nights a week playing
That's
basketball.
just like us, yeah.
Yeah, so that was sort of my life after, during 12, 13, 14.
What elementary and junior highs did you go to?
The elementary was at Canyon Rim Elementary. And then we went to Wasatch Junior High for 7th grade. Then Churchill Junior High opened up, and I went there for 8th and 9th grade.
In Skyline?
And then Skyline High School through high school.
Can you think of anything that was different when you went to school compared to nowadays? Any big differences that you can think of?
Girls had to wear
Well,
dresses.
we walked to elementary school, and it would take us 10, 15 minutes to walk to elementary school. Junior high and high school, we took the bus,
Yeah,
and we never, I mean, very, very seldom did I ever get a ride from my mom or my dad, because my dad was working and my mom was taking care of the siblings. So riding a bike was how we got around to my friend's house, and I would be gone, during the summer, I just leave sometime in the morning and come back at night, and then we'd eat dinner and play outside, till it got dark.
you didn't have to call your mom and tell her every movement you made throughout the day.
Oh, I don't remember calling my mom ever. I mean, maybe when I was in, if I went to a friend's house after school, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
But during the summer, it never occurred to
you
me.
just come home for dinner.
Yeah, I don't remember. Well, we didn't watch much TV because,
There wasn't anything good on.
for a lot of my childhood, we didn't have a TV. It was broken, and it was just sat in the corner broken, Yeah, so that was, but I liked the thing with my friends. I didn't do a lot with my siblings,
And you went to Skyline High School?
Skyline High School, yeah.
Did you do any extracurricular activities or sports?
Well, I had a friend who was, this was the first year of high school, maybe, sophomore, junior, senior, sophomore or junior, I had a friend who had a ham radio operator license. And I thought that was the coolest thing. So I got a radio operator's license, learned Morse code, and bought a receiver and a transmitter, a Heath kit, where you'd put it together yourself. And WA7LQK was my call
You
sign.
still remember?
Yeah.
Did you talk to people around the
Well,
country?
Not really. I would listen, but it was just fun having the license, and I put an antenna on the top of our house, and I don't know how thrilled my dad was to come home to find a 15-foot antenna sitting on top. I don't remember if I talked to him before I did it or not. I don't.
What
But,
was your dad doing?
He was a machinist, is what he told us to always tell people if anybody asked. But he worked at Thornton Plastic, and he would repair machines and help build machines. They were all custom machines making these little vials that pills, from the pharmacy you'd put in. And they would sell these vials, I guess, all over the country, and Thornton's would. And so he was maintain the machines and help build them. And
Can I just say something about your dad?
Mhm.
He was in that era when there's World War II and, he wants to get married. He would have made an amazing engineer or whatever. But he got married and they started having kids. And so he worked for Uncle Wayne. So,
He was an aircraft mechanic in the war. I once interviewed him about it.
oh, I didn't know.
He was in the Army Air Corps over in England. I mean, when I was just little, before we moved, when we lived in our first house, he and his brother together they owned a service station downtown, about 3rd West and, I don't know, 2nd South, 3rd South, something like that. And so he was a really good mechanic. He could rebuild carburetors and things like that. So that's what he did his whole
He
life.
told me about watching the planes take off on D-Day from
Oh, yeah. He never talked, I don't remember him ever, he talked to you more about the war than he ever talked to us about it. It never occurred to me to ask him questions about the war. I wish looking back now, there's a lot of questions I would have liked to ask him out of interest, but he never talked about the war.
A lot of them didn't, they didn't want to.
I don't think he was, well, I think Diane, my sister, thinks he was a secret agent behind enemy lines because of some stories and some time that was unaccounted for, that nobody knew what he was doing over there. But I don't think he saw combat or anything like that. I think he was just an aircraft mechanic
Yeah, that's
in
what he told me.
England, when the planes would come back.
But don't they try to bomb those places where they are repairing the planes?
You think so? He didn't tell me about
Yeah.
ever getting bombed.
Oh, I just wondered.
I don't know.
He always told us how when he was 4 years old, they would have him, when he lived on the ranch in Wyoming, they would have his older brother and his dad would have him drive the hay wagon,
4 years old.
Yeah, and it was being pulled by horses, And he said, yeah, I'd go along and I'd get bumped off and fall off, and then they'd pick me up and put me back on the hay wagon. See, I don't know if that was really true or not. He might have been a little older than 4, but we do know
big
he
for his
could play.
age.
He was really good at playing poker. On the ship over to England when he was in the army on the transport ship, he said he was playing poker he said one night I just could not lose, and he made enough money to pay for his mission when he came from the army with his
Didn't
poker
he say,
earnings.
he said, if I lose, I won't play poker again, but he just kept winning.
And up at the cabin, when we'd go up at the cabin with all my cousins and things, we had poker chips up there, and we would play poker with my cousins, and we wouldn't let him play with it because he'd always win, So anyway,
Now, you were in the Army Reserve.
I was in the Army Reserve. Yeah.
Now, tell us, what was that like?
Well, I remember when I went to, I had basic training in Fort Dix, New Jersey. Then I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky. I was a radio teletype operator. And one of the things we had to do, the people in my specialty had to learn Morse code. But I already knew Morse code. They were trying to get up to 13 words a minute, and I could do 20 words a minute. So after the first week, they just let me go back to the barracks during class because I'd passed everything off.
So did you have to go like once a month to go?
Yeah,
to
we went to a
trainings and
meeting one weekend a month, and then in the summer you'd go to a 2-week activity. I can't remember what they call it.
stuff? So was that before you were married, or
He
were you
was
guys
still
It
married?
was
going.
before I got married. It was before I went on my mission, and then I got a 2-year reason to not go to meetings. And then when I came back from a mission, started up going to the a weekend a month,
Yeah, he did.
and I did that when we were married for
Yeah,
a while
You
too.
did. I forgot about that,
So
but you did.
how old were you when you I guess quit or?
When you were done.
you were
Well, it was a 6-year obligation. So, what does that make it? I started the summer I got out of high school, and
Was that 70?
that was in 70. So in 78, I got out before. I was in when we went up to Seattle. So I was.
Oh, yeah, you had
Yeah,
to
we
do it up
graduated
there.
from BYU, then went to Seattle for like 2 years, and I was in the Air National Guard in Seattle, then came back here and went to the same unit for another 2
Okay.
years.
So it was up through when Jeff was born.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember any big world events that really stuck in your memory from when you were a kid, like the moon landing or
Sputnik.
JFK? Sputnik?
Yeah, Sputnik.
I remember
Deal.
when who was it, Neil Armstrong,
Neil
the first one to walk on the
Yeah.
moon?
Yeah.
I was picking pineapples in Hawaii. On
Were
the
you
night,
listening to the
on
radio?
huh?
Were you listening to it on the radio?
No, we were out in the field. I worked the shift went from about 4 in the afternoon till midnight, picking pineapples out there. And I remember maybe someone had a radio and they were talking about it. I didn't have a radio myself, but that was my
Were
claim
you
to
just
fame.
working in Hawaii just for money, just for the adventure of it, or what?
Yeah.
Just sort of, it was between my junior and senior years. I came back, it was that summer, and I came back, and then I was a senior in high school. It's just a friend, the same friend who got me into the amateur radio. He'd heard about it, and so we went over there, flew over there by ourselves, you know. And I don't remember how much a plane ticket cost. It's certainly less than it did now. But yeah, we were there for about 2 months, you know, 8 or 10 weeks, and then came home, and just something to do.
The presidential elections were always really a big deal. You
Which
know,
ones stand out in your?
Kennedy, probably.
Kennedy. I remember they always had it was interesting to me, they had like LBJ, they always had the initials of the
Yeah.
presidents. I remember LBJ for some reason, you know.
Yeah,
And Nixon,
yeah,
and
those were
What year
big.
were you guys born?
52.
53, end of 53. He was born at the beginning of 52. So,
So you're pretty little for JFK, but
but I
old
remember
enough
it was a
to
big
know.
deal.
Well, I remember, I remember that presidential election because there were people voting for Kennedy and people voting for, I guess it was Nixon that was running against him, yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
But do you remember where you were when you heard that Kennedy was shot?
He was
Um,
probably home.
let's see, Kennedy. I remember where I was when the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show.
I think we were at school when Kennedy died.
I was in 6th grade when the Beatles, I think, were on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
I was
And that was a big
Did you
deal.
watch it?
Yeah, did they let you watch
I don't
it?
remember watching it, but I remember the big scandal about the Beatles, and it was in the newspaper and everything, was how long their hair was. People thought that was quite scandalous, you know.
Were you, how old were you when, I guess Elvis Presley
Oh, yeah.
he was on the Sullivan Show. Were you, what year that was?
He was a little
That was a little
before.
the Beatles.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't remember much about that.
that was a big scandal.
But I remember we would watch the Ed Sullivan Show. Mostly on Sunday nights, we would watch Bonanza. I remember that as a family, you know. Oh, and then Kennecott Theater, whatever night that was, Friday nights.
It's out of Utah, I think, Kennecott Theater for
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Kennecott Copper.
So Mom, how did you make your way to BYU? What made you decide to go there?
I think my family wanted me to go. Delary had like a full ride scholarship, the whole thing for 4 years, but she got married instead, and
So
She
she never
finished her-
went to BYU.
she finished her degree later. So, yeah, she got married, had kids. So, I had just a small scholarship, but that was life-changing for me. You know, I met my roommates. We were living in the dorms. Most of us lived in the same family group or whatever, and we decided we like to live together, and they're still my friends, you know, lifelong friends. And of course, I would have never met your dad.
Were you hoping to meet a nice return missionary while you were there?
Well, of course.
So how did you,
You were home from your mission when you guys met? Is that-
Yeah, I came home from my mission and on a Friday night, and the next morning, it was a Saturday, and I drove down to BYU to get registered for classes. And I think the tuition was $250 for a semester.
This was, you were going to BYU for the first time. You
Yeah.
didn't-
Yeah, I hadn't been to college at all. Came home from mission on a Friday night, drove down there Saturday morning, got registered, drove home for Sunday, and drove back down there. And I had an apartment already arranged, and drove back there Sunday night to go to school, and never went back home after that.
His mom felt a little robbed by all that.
she,
Yeah.
you lived at home for one
I
day?
think,
You
I
never
think
lived
she
at
said
home
to me one time, you
since high
took
school,
him from me.
Right, yeah. I mean, I got out of high school in July of 70 or May of 70. The next summer, 71, I went in the Army for active duty for 6 months. Came home for about 2 months and left on my mission. I mean, never went back home.
Because that was Vietnam time, so.
So did you have any jobs in high school besides picking pineapple?
Oh, yeah. We had a guy in our ward Clinton Mott, who had a cabin in Brighton. Plus, he owned Egbert parking lots. Had about 7 or 8 parking lots downtown, including one that was where the attendants would park the cars. It was like 4 stories, you know. And from the time I was, wow,
Had your license?
before I had my license, me and my friends Steve and John worked for the Egbert Parking Company, working on his parking lots, cleaning him up downtown, and we'd drive up to Brighton every 6 days a week and work up on his cabin that he had up there.
Doing construction.
Well, cleaning it up and insulating it, sort of finishing it up and building a rock wall around it, you know. We did that for 4 summers. I mean, I think he was just a nice guy making work for us, you know. But,
Did you have jobs in high school?
I worked at Kentucky Roast Beef. They don't have those anymore. I mean, that's what it was.
Kentucky roast beef.
Yeah, they sold
fast
roast beef
food or-
sandwiches. No, they were a part of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
It was related.
Yeah, they branched out. So, yeah, fast food.
Would you do like cooking and cashiering?
Yeah, it's just like somebody at McDonald's, you know, putting your food in the bag and,
You didn't roller skate around and.
no, didn't roller skate, didn't have
Do
to
you guys
cook
remember
anything.
those?
I never saw it, but I've seen it on only what I saw on TV or
Yeah.
in the movies. You know, someone roller skating around. Well, maybe some of the drive-ins that they would bring food out to
Yeah.
you.
Do you remember going to the drive-in movies? Did your family do that?
Oh yeah.
That was what
Was
families
it the
would.
Redwood Drive-In?
We didn't go. That wasn't. We went to one up by my mom's house, the Motorview Drive-In up near Wasatch Boulevard and 3300 South.
Did yours have a playground? Ours had a little
Yeah,
playground.
they had a little playground there, and kids would play there. And
Are there any specific movies you remember seeing that stood out?
I remember I'd go to the drive-in with my friends sometimes.
Did you see Star Wars when it came out?
Oh, they were married.
Star Wars?
Were you married when it came
We
out?
were married by then, yeah.
I just wondered if you like went on
Oh.
a date to it.
Well, we
or-
probably did, but it wouldn't have been a drive-in. It was probably a.
I remember one of the most amazing movies I went and saw was Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
I love that
We
show.
saw
We
it for
just,
the
we
first
just watched
time.
that with our kids.
And we went to the Villa Theater, but it was I remember when my Grandma Layton took us our family to see. Gosh, what was that? It was in Sugar House. I don't remember, but think I remember seeing Snow White and the Seven
Yeah.
Dwarfs.
We'd see all the Disney movies.
But that was like a later release. on
They-
this.
Yeah.
So, Mom, why don't you tell us about when you first met Dad at BYU?
So they put you in a ward that you go to. I can't remember if they called it a branch or a ward. And
Branch, I think.
branch. And so we were in the same branch, thanks to my roommate that found this place for us to live.
And
So
how
I had
big
gone
is-
to
how big is a
I went to
branch?
school for 1 year, and then I started my second year, and things were bad at home, so I had to go home. And then so I worked, and then I came back to school. And that's when I met him. So we were in the same branch, and they put us in the same family home evening group. And he was not, this won't surprise you, he was not a person that stood out, put himself too forward, or was very overly talkative. He was very quiet, kind of quiet, and I thought he was really shy. And I think neither one of us was dating anybody at the time, and he asked me, did I want to go to a movie or out to eat or something like that. Yeah.
I don't
The
remember.
The boyfriend I had when I was in California, he was a little older and not even close to as cute as your dad. And he worked, and he didn't cook for himself. He would go out to eat like twice a day or something. You know, he didn't cook for himself. He'd just spend his money on that. But when we were going on dates and stuff, it was cheapo.
Yeah, we called that a red flag.
Christy said that was a red flag moment. I said, Dad, he always, even when he's going to school, right? He would take me someplace and spend money. Didn't have to be a lot. We'd go get an ice cream cone or something, but he was a
Well,
lot
and
better.
and Dad has told me once about how cheap he ate himself, so Dad was kind of the opposite.
Yes, he
Yeah.
was. And I'm not saying that's why,
Yeah.
it's not what attracted me to him,
Yeah.
okay? Because we've been dating for quite a while, BYU standard time or whatever, you know? And my roommates would say, you know, are you going to marry him? I said, he is too shy. He is just too shy.
Do you remember when he asked you to marry him?
We talked about it more than, because he's not going to want, he don't want to ask me if I'm going to say no, you know,
Yeah.
so. And all I could think was, I can't see my life without him. He's my best friend. I don't want to not have him in my life, so. I think it was a little awkward with the, are you going to marry me? Yes, kind of thing, but
Did you actually like get down on one knee ever?
I don't
No,
think so.
no.
I think we were just sitting.
Yeah,
I
guess
don't know if
this
we
has
just
to
sort of said, well,
Should we do it? I think that's what it
do you
was.
think you want to get married? Or
Yeah.
I just,
Or you haven't like bought a ring already.
No.
no. No, after we agreed to get married, then we went and looked at rings, you know.
Do you remember anything about your wedding day?
We got married in the temple. We got married the same day as two of Iris's roommates.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Two
So,
of them?
Two of them.
Oh,
All
I
three
just
of-
knew
three
about
of
the
you.
one.
Alice and
Wow.
Melanie.
Oh,
yeah, got married on the same
And-
day.
Back then, the Salt Lake Temple was really just the place you went to
It
get married,
was,
so
it
they probably
was.
got married there too, right?
They might have. Did they get married in Salt Lake?
Oh yeah, there's all of them at the Salt
Yeah,
Lake Temple, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And what was it like being a young married couple? You stayed at BYU, right?
Yeah, we had a
Moved into a different
we had
apartment.
remember
Was it in a house?
it was in the house,
Yeah.
and I think we were paying $60 a month for rent. I mean, my first apartment at BYU, I paid $35 a month. So I thought, 60, well, that's quite a bit. And then we lived there for
He's
about
still going to school.
6 months, and when you're in all the people
Yeah.
in your branch, it's a married couple, and so everyone keeps track of who lives where and how much they're paying for rent.
Yeah.
Because when people would move out, if it was a good place,
A cheaper
people would
place.
move in.
Yeah.
So then some people were living in a basement apartment, and I think it was $35 a month, and we were able to move in there. And I think we stayed there
I think Rich was born.
till we
when
moved to
lived there.
Seattle, or
Yeah, I think you were born while we lived in that basement.
yeah.
so did you work while you were going to school at BYU?
Yeah, I worked at the BYU had a catering type of department where they would, well, like for example, all the places where the students would eat, the Wilkinson Center and Deseret Towers, and I worked for the area of the food department that would deliver food to these areas, and plus people could just call in and order things, or if a department, some school department was having an event and they wanted something catered, or, we would deliver food to them.
And I worked.
What were you each
Did I work at the
studying
sewing
at
factory?
school?
Who,
What was
Iris?
What was your degree that you were going
Yours.
at?
Oh, my degree is in electronic technology and a minor in computer science.
How about you, Iris?
Oh, I wanted to be what did I want to be? A teacher?
Yeah, I think you probably in generals. I don't know.
I just finished my generals.
When
pretty
we
much.
knew each other, Iris was you were working in that cafe down on Center
Oh
Street.
yeah, I was.
I don't know if you were even a student when
No,
we started dating.
I think maybe I wasn't. I think that's right.
Yeah.
It was maybe summer. Was it summer? But yeah, I worked at a cafe, and every day that I was working, I could have a free meal, and so Dad would come and he'd eat the meal.
Well, I remember you.
No, I wanted him
You
to.
gave him,
sounds-
you gave him your free meal.
I don't.
That's you.
It is me, isn't it?
Mm.
I don't remember that, but I remember you would ride your bike down to the cafe.
I did.
And then I would, when you got
Oh
off, I
yeah,
would
you
pick you up
take me
and
home.
put the bike in the car.
Because it was
drive home.
downhill to get to the place, but it was uphill to get back home.
And this was while you were dating or what? After
Oh,
you
we were
married?
dating.
And after we got married for a little while, I think.
No, I think I
Well,
quit and
Rich
worked at
was-
the
Rich
sewing
was
factory.
born about 10 months after you got married,
Yeah.
right? So-
Yeah, and I was working at a sewing factory, just pushing that stuff through. Yeah,
What can you tell us about becoming a mom for the first time?
I was very surprised because I wanted to be a mom so badly. I thought, what's going to happen? I won't be able to, I'll have trouble and I'll have to go get help from a doctor to be able to get pregnant. So I was pretty surprised that we were expecting Rich and very happy, of course, very happy. It was just amazing. So, yeah, I was pretty happy. Then he came earlier than they thought he would, but they said he wasn't really early, so.
It wasn't as exact back then as it is now about.
No, it's not, yeah. No, it's not as exact and things can happen.
And
that
nobody
way.
knew if you were having a boy or a girl till
No, nobody
Oh.
knew.
till the day, yeah.
Was that the case with all of your kids? You didn't know until we came out?
Every one of you. I did not know what I was getting.
Another boy.
Another boy. That was said again. Another boy. Another boy.
When you were born, I said to Christy, "You're not getting a sister."
Had you two
I
talked
just can't
about
keep going.
how many kids you wanted before you married?
I think we talked about 6 because he came from a family with 6 kids and I came from a family with 6 kids, and it just
That
seemed
seemed to be a common number
we
of
liked
kids
that
to have.
number. So
It didn't seem like a huge family to you guys
No.
to have 6. That seemed like a reasonable amount of kids.
no, and by the time we were living in this house, we had the birds next door.
You had a small family.
Yeah.
So 6 sounded pretty reasonable.
It seemed like, Armstrong's had a lot of kids. It seemed
Yeah.
like most people in the
Yeah.
neighborhood had either 4 or 6, If it was less than 4, then that wasn't very many, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
5 or 6 was pretty average.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just seemed like an average family.
Before you moved to Taylorsville, did you ever even go to like the west side of the valley when you were growing up here?
Decker, where you've heard of Decker Lake, that
Okay.
area. Well, when I was 15 or 16, there was there's Decker Lake is still there. We would drive down to Decker Lake with our bows and go carp hunting, shoot carp with them.
And then did you eat the carp?
No,
Just kidding.
but
They were probably trying to get rid of the carp.
yeah, no. The all of my life was east of 20th East. Never even Redwood Road.
Redwood Road was like a country road.
Well, I think it was paved, but
Right, but
the only time we
There
went
was
out
high-
here,
It was farmland.
when we'd go out to my to Winder Dairy, where my cousins live, and that seemed like a long ways to go. When we drive out to Winder Dairy, and
that's like West Valley Granger.
yeah. So yeah, it was very rural. It seemed like to me.
When we lived in Seattle, we loved it there. And he liked his job, but we had both grown up near our grandparents, our maternal grandparents. And so we just wanted our kids to have that. And so when we were trying to buy a house, we were still young. And so where we could afford to buy a house was Taylorsville. Was your cousin our realtor?
Yeah, Doug Winder
Doug
was
Winder was our realtor. And Grandma just felt so bad for us that we had to live on the west side. because it was still really new to be living out there and not being on a farm. So I think it turned out to be a good place to grow up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We still like it.
Tell us maybe a little bit about when you got diabetes and when you kind of first found that out.
That was rough.
Oh, that was 45 years ago, quite a while ago.
I couldn't believe it when he came home from the doctor. and
Like
said-
how? Like were you sick? Were you sick?
Yeah,
Like
how
what?
did you
what
find
No,
out?
oh, well, I was thirsty all the time, just always thirsty, and then you'd have to go to the bathroom, and and you'd be thirsty again, and so we went to the doctor, and that was it.
He,
How old were
he
you?
was already type 1 by then, so.
So I was like 27, I think.
It's pretty weird for type 1.
That seems kind of unusual.
Yes.
Did you have to sharpen needles and reuse them?
No. They had disposable syringes.
Okay, no glass syringes.
Thank goodness.
But you took pig's insulin, right?
The what?
Didn't you take pig insulin?
There were two kinds, pork and beef insulin, yeah.
And which
Yeah,
one-
they didn't have the synthetic here.
How's the flavor or where they got it?
Is what?
That's where they.
Good one.
He said, was that the flavor of the insulin or was that where they got the insulin?
Yeah.
So, do you have any stories about when we were kids? What memories stick out about raising that many kids, or was it just all a blur?
A blur of chaos.
It's really kind of a blur, but it's a joyous blur, you know? It was just
I remember
vacations, camping.
I remember one thing about Jeff, and I will be in Jeff's, I'm in his debt for forever, was when we were on a backpacking trip in the Uintas, and Jeff got lost. We'd stopped at a resting spot, and everybody was there, and then we hiked on into the lake we were going to, and after a while, people started saying, "Hey, where's Jeff? We can't find Jeff anywhere." And I thought, what? We lost Jeff?
Well, I wouldn't have thought it would have been Jeff that did that.
And we can't find him anywhere.
Are
You
you
know.
sure this wasn't Steve?
I know,
No.
right?
Jeff?
It was Jeff.
Okay.
And so we started, Brad Kais, it was Brad Kais and I were there, I think we're the two adults. I don't know if there's another adult or not. I mean, so what are you gonna do if you can't find one of the scouts, Just send someone to hike
the
out,
trail.
or.
There were no
or-
phones
or
back
what,
then.
you didn't have cell phones.
Uh-uh.
So we started, walking through the woods. Jeff, move over, Jeff. And so I was walking along here, and there was a little meadow off in the distance. And I look over there, and there's this tent. It was Matt Kai's, or Matt Kai's tent. And it was sort of bright colored, Huh? So I walk over there, and Jeff, is that you? And here comes Jeff out of the tent. And so I said, "Why?" And I'm telling you, you're looking for someone, and you've got a prayer in your heart, and just wondering, "Wow, I hope we can find him."
Because what are you going to tell his mom?
Yeah, we lost Jeff. What are you doing? And Jeff, I mean, and he's the smartest guy in the world. He knew he was lost, but he stopped and put up his tent. He said, "I just went in the tent and took a nap and was waiting to hear the helicopters when the helicopters came to find me, Well, there were no helicopters, Jeff, but I mean, the fact that he didn't just keep walking, because when people get lost, they start to panic a little bit, and they think if they just keep walking, they'll walk into their group. But all they're doing is making themselves a moving target, and people who are looking for you,
They don't know which way you're moving.
they're looking at here and here and here. And if you're a moving target, you're just making it harder to be found, So Jeff did exactly the right thing. And I thought, wow, that was a great feeling to find Jeff, I'll tell you.
How about you, Mo?
Well, it was a lot of fun raising you guys. I learned a lot about boys. I only had that one brother that I didn't really spend that much time with. And then I had a grown man. So to see boys from the beginning, oh my, how I love boys. I love boys.
Sorry, Christy.
You got 6 minutes left.
So.
She's
oh, sorry.
special.
Um,
But you guys did
Okay,
stuff
I have
that I
2
never thought
questions.
anybody would do.
what could you pinpoint what's the happiest day of your life? Or
The day I found
defining-
Jeff.
Okay. Defining moments in your
The
life.
day I found Craig.
What defining moments in your life?
Another good moment was when Rich and Steve took their bikes riding up the top of Mill Creek.
Yeah.
No,
Steve did not follow the Jeff.
Yeah,
and
yeah, and the search and rescue had to go
yeah,
find
Rich
him.
had to call search and rescue, and the fact that Steve was able to make it over to Park City and call the sheriff and say, "Don't put a helicopter in the air. I'm okay." That saved me probably $5,000.
What, before we wrap up, maybe you guys wanna share what role the church or the gospel has been in your life? Or what a message regarding that you'd wanna pass down?
I don't know how it is for someone who was born in the church, had the priesthood in their home all their lives, and was baptized when they were 8. I don't know how that one feels, but I'm so grateful to have found the true gospel and to know that we can be together forever and that it's not just heaven or hell. You know, we're going to all be someplace where we're comfortable. And of course, you know, I got your dad out of this because I was a member of the church and got to go to BYU. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. You happened to me.
Yeah. No, I think the church is a really, I mean, not just besides the spiritual, religious thing, but for me, it's been a great lifestyle for living,
And the people, to be able to be around
and
good
this the
people.
association of with good people,
Maybe we could each share like a memory or a thought we have on our parents. I was just thinking, I want to thank you guys. I think the most important thing a parent could do for their kid is provide them a safe and fun upbringing, and you guys really nailed that. 10 out of 10. Childhood was, I always felt safe and tons of fun.
And loved.
So thank you, and definitely loved. So thank
That's
you for
good.
I was a teenager when I realized that not all grown-ups are smart and nice people, because I had parents that couldn't have done better.
I remember being a little kid and being really afraid of dogs. And we went to the cabin and it was for the 4th of July.
I remember that.
You remember this? Okay.
Yeah, Renee's dog grabbed you by the head.
Grabbed me by the head, and Dad, you came running, and that I recall, you did a slide kick, and you just kicked the crap out of this dog.
I believe
Off
it.
of me.
I believe it.
And so I was always like, my dad's super cool. Flew down and just kicked this dog.
Yeah.
And Mom, you were always there when we needed stuff, and you were a stay-at-home mom. You were always there for us. Always felt loved.
Good.
Yeah, with Scott, every kid is envious of our childhood.
You got 2 minutes left.
I'll just repeat what Scott said.
It was hard.
Assume I repeated it.
It was hard for you though. You were the oldest. I put a lot on you.
I don't really remember feeling.
Oh,
like-
good. Good.
Yeah, I don't have negative feelings of it.
You were a good. You really were a good older brother for them.
It's good.
I remember one of the great days of my life.
What?
The Christmas I got a BB gun.
You'll shoot your eye out.
That was
I assume you were like 4 at this. I assume you were like 4.
How old were you?
probably about 8 or something. 8 or 9. 2 minutes left.
I get a doll. He gets a BB gun. That says a lot. Yeah.
Were there any other stories or lessons that you guys want to make sure don't get forgot? There's stories that you'd heard from when you were a kid from your parents, or just what's the best story that you want to make sure everyone remembers?
Keep it short.
You got 1 minute.
I think Yeah, I don't think we can top the stories you guys have told. Yeah. Just know that we are so proud of all of you, each of you. We love you. And when you're a parent, you know what that means, right? We don't judge you. That's not our job. We just love you. And you've made us so proud, all of you. And we're so glad that you still like each other, because when we're gone, I want you to still be together, take care of each other. You have 7 seconds.
I was just gonna say, you look a lot better on this video than I do.
I thought he was
I see,
going to
who's
say